Hey foodie friends, today we are making my all-time favorite dish, risotto with butternut squash. In general, I love making risotto, and one with butternut squash is my go-to in the fall and winter. This dish does take patience to create that creamy consistency that is so loved when it comes to risotto. So let's get started. To a pot, you will add about 1 pound's worth of medium diced butternut squash, along with 1 bay leaf and some better than bouillon chicken flavor, about 1 tablespoon's worth. Normally for risotto, it's a 3-to-1 ratio liquid to rice, but since we need to cook this squash, I'm going to be using 4 cups of water. So I'm going to cover this up and get this on the stove so that the butternut squash cooks to fork tender. While it's cooking, we are going to get some butter melted in a small pot. To the bubbly butter, add some sage leaves to crisp up for garnish. Once they've crisped, you'll remove the leaves and continue to brown the butter on low heat. By this time, the squash will be done cooking. Grab an emulsion blender and puree until smooth. If you don't have an emulsion blender, use a stand blender, but before pureeing, allow the cooked squash to cool a bit. Adding too hot of a mixture to a blender can cause the blender to crack. Once blended and smooth, return the squash to the stove over low heat. You'll add the browned butter to a preheated pan along with 1 small diced shallot. Cook down until translucent and fragrant. To the shallots, you'll add minced garlic, heating it through but not browning it. Then you'll add 1 cup of arborio rice. No exceptions on the rice choice, guys. Arborio rice is high in amylopectin, which is a type of starch that's good at absorbing liquid, which will aid in creating that creamy texture. Once you've toasted the rice a bit, you'll add some white wine of your choosing. Here I'm using some Chardonnay, adding just enough to cover all of the rice grains. Cook until it's fully absorbed in the rice. Then you'll start to add the squash broth 1 ladle at a time to the rice, stirring it constantly. You don't want to add more broth to the rice until all the previously added broth has been completely absorbed. This does take time, but as you continue to add more broth, you will start to see how the consistency of the rice begins to change. Rushing the cook time on risotto won't allow the rice to fully absorb the liquid and flavors, which will also affect the texture. You want it to be smooth and creamy naturally, not with the addition of cream or cheese. As the grains become more cooked, give it a taste for salt levels and texture. You want the rice to be just a bit over al dente. When it's to your liking flavor and texture-wise, remove it from the heat. Add some of the sage leaves you've crisped up. I've chopped mine up a bit. Then you'll add some fontina cheese. Usually you'll add parm, but with the squash, I like the bite fontina gives. Mix it all together until the cheese is completely incorporated and then plate it up. This is the perfect dish to make for a loved one on Valentine's Day or a just because I want to feel cozy day. The ingredients list will be in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. Buon appetito!